Yesterday, I noticed someone trying to access my account after hours. It wasn't a hacker or a rival. It was Henry, the CEO's son, who had only been with our company for a month. My name is Naomi, I'm 28 years old, and I've dedicated the last 6 years climbing the ranks at Fast Track Solutions, one of the most challenging tech firms in San Francisco. From a junior analyst to a senior project manager, I've battled for every advancement. Our company specializes in developing enterprise software for some of the largest corporations in the nation, and the competition is fierce. Yet, even in this ruthless industry, nothing surprised me more than finding Henry probing into my work. Rather than reporting him, I opted for a more educational approach, a lesson he won't soon forget. We are recognized for our cutting-edge innovations and our ability to deliver complex projects ahead of schedule. This reputation was not easily earned. It was forged through countless late nights, impossible deadlines, and the unwavering determination of our founder and CEO, Edward Whitmore. Edward is a powerful figure in the tech industry. At 52, he has already founded and sold 2 successful startups before establishing Fast Track 12 years ago. Despite his daunting presence, most employees hold him in high regard because he is tough yet fair. He demands excellence but rewards it generously. I have always valued his straightforward approach and merit-based leadership style. That was until he brought his son into the company. Henry Whitmore graduated from Stanford with a business degree just 4 months ago. He is 24, undeniably bright, and possesses his father's charismatic confidence, albeit without the years of setbacks and lessons that shaped it. Instead of starting in an entry-level role like everyone else, Henry was instantly promoted to a middle management position, overseeing 3 departments, including mine. I believe in throwing people into the deep end, Edward declared during the company meeting where he introduced Henry. Sink or swim. That is how I learned, and that is how my son will learn. The issue extended beyond mere nepotism. I might have been able to overlook that if Henry had displayed even a hint of humility or a desire to learn. Instead, he strutted around the office as if he owned the place, which, in a way, he did thanks to his trust fund shares. In his first week, I attempted to be supportive. I invited him to observe me during client meetings and offered to guide him through our project management systems. Thanks, Naomi, but I already know how these things work, he replied with a dismissive gesture. I did a summer internship at Google, remember? Plus, my dad and I discuss business all the time. His arrogance was remarkable, but I reminded myself that Edward had always been fair. Surely he wouldn't put up with incompetence, even from his son. So, I kept my head down and concentrated on my work, particularly the Apex Corporation project. One Wednesday, my colleague Carlisle joined me for lunch in the break room, her face tight with frustration. Did you hear what Henry said in the marketing meeting? She inquired, jabbing at her salad. He told the team that their campaign strategy was, and I quote, something a first-year marketing student could devise. Then he proposed they discard 3 months of work and start fresh with his concept. Was his idea any good? I asked. Carlisle rolled her eyes. It was literally the same strategy Dell implemented last year. When Brandon pointed that out, Henry retorted, well, my father believes originality is overrated compared to execution. These incidents became routine. Henry would assert his influence, questioning decisions that had been meticulously made by seasoned professionals, and always find a way to reference his father. The Apex project represented our most significant opportunity of the year. Apex Corporation was a Fortune 100 company aiming to revamp their entire digital infrastructure, a contract potentially worth $50 million over 5 years. Edward appointed me as the project lead based on my history with similar clients. Naomi, I need your utmost effort on this, he said during our briefing. Apex could be the client that elevates us from a successful mid-size firm to a significant player in the industry. I gathered a team of our finest talent, and we dedicated weeks to crafting a thorough proposal that covered every facet of Apex's requirements. The presentation was set for next Friday, and everything was proceeding smoothly until Henry decided to get involved. Dad mentioned that Apex could be a game changer for us, he remarked, appearing at my desk one afternoon. I believe I should take a more active role. After all, I will inherit the company one day. I attempted to be diplomatic. We are in the final stages of preparation, but you are welcome to review what we have so far. I can send you the overview documents. No need, he replied with that maddening smile. Just keep me in the loop on all communications moving forward. I learn better by being involved in real time. What could I say? He was the boss's son. I included him in our email chain, hoping he would simply observe. Instead, he started questioning everything, proposing changes that would disrupt our meticulously planned strategy, and scheduling unnecessary meetings that cut into our preparation time. The final straw came when he casually stated during a team meeting that he would be happy to take the lead on the actual presentation to Apex. The team looked to me, anticipating my reaction. I could feel my blood pressure rising, but I kept a professional demeanor. The presentation structure has already been approved by your father, I said calmly, but I can discuss it with him if you wish. Henry narrowed his eyes slightly. No need. I will speak to him myself. That was when I realized Henry viewed me as competition. Not as a respected senior employee with valuable knowledge and connections, but as an obstacle to his swift rise within the company. The Apex project was his ideal chance to push me aside. It was nearly 9:30 on a Tuesday night when my phone buzzed with a notification. I was still at the office wrapping up the details for the Apex presentation. A notification popped up from our IT security system, warning me about a login to my company account from an unfamiliar device. Initially, I assumed it was just a glitch. I frequently logged in from home or my phone, but those devices were already approved. This was something entirely different. I clicked on the details and discovered that the login was coming from within our building's network, but from an IP address linked to a device that wasn't registered to me. Suddenly, a thought struck me. Earlier that day, during our project status meeting, Henry had intentionally sat next to me. At that moment, I thought he was merely being bothersome, asking questions over my shoulder. Now, I began to suspect he might have been observing me enter my password. I reached out to Amanda from IT security, hoping she was still around. Hey, Naomi. Burning the midnight oil again, Amanda greeted me. Yes, and I just received a strange login notification. Can you assist me in checking if someone is currently accessing my account? After a brief silence, Amanda replied, yes, there is an active session from the executive floor, conference room B. The executive floor, where Henry's office was located right next to his father's. Conference room B was seldom used at this hour, but it had a smart television that could display presentations. Can you find out what files they are accessing? I inquired, my suspicion intensifying. Give me a moment, Amanda responded. I could hear her typing away. They are browsing through your Apex Corporation folders, proposal documents, financial projections, presentation slides, essentially everything related to Friday's presentation. My heart sank. The Apex project represented months of hard work from my team, and more importantly, it was vital for Fast Track's future. A $50 million deal would revolutionize our company, enabling us to venture into new markets and recruit top talent from our competitors. Edward had emphasized how crucial this client was. I remembered a conversation from earlier that week when Henry had attempted to persuade me to divulge more information about our strategy for Apex. Naomi, as part of the executive team, I must be completely informed about all facets of this proposal, he had insisted. I have already provided the executive summary to you and your father, I responded. The technical specifics will be finalized by Wednesday, and I will update everyone at that time. He was not happy about it. That does not give me much time to prepare if I am going to be presenting parts of this, he said. Edward and I have already talked about the presentation lineup, I stated firmly, but I am willing to include you in the rehearsal on Thursday. Henry had given me a frosty smile. We will see about that. Now I understood what he meant. He intended to scrutinize all my work, get acquainted with every detail, and then persuade his father to allow him to take credit for it. Amanda, how long has this been happening? I inquired. Let me check the logs, she replied. After a moment, it appears there have been similar access patterns for the past week. Always after hours, always from the executive floor, primarily focused on your Apex materials, but also some of your performance reviews and previous project files. My performance reviews crossed a line. Those included confidential feedback and personal development notes. What was he searching for? Ammunition to use against me? Can you identify exactly who it is? I asked, though I was nearly certain. Amanda paused. Officially, I cannot pinpoint a user without authorization from HR or Edward himself. But unofficially, the access pattern aligns with Henry Whitmore's badge swipes into the building and the executive floor. I thanked Amanda and requested that she keep this information between us for the time being. Then I leaned back in my chair, contemplating my options. I could approach Edward directly, but would he believe me over his son Henry? He would likely argue that he was merely being thorough in his role as an executive. Or worse, he might claim that I had granted him permission to access my files, turning it into a situation where it was my word against his. I could also choose to confront Henry, but that felt like a gamble. He had already demonstrated his willingness to act behind my back. A confrontation might only strengthen his resolve to sabotage me. As I contemplated my choices, a memory emerged from a leadership seminar I attended last year. The speaker, a former CEO, recounted a tale about a colleague who had stolen his work. Rather than confronting the thief, he allowed them to present the flawed preliminary version while he kept the polished correct version hidden. When the thief failed publicly, he stepped in with the accurate solution and saved the day. Sometimes, the speaker had said, you have to let people fail on their own terms before they can learn. An idea began to take shape in my mind. If Henry wanted to take my work, perhaps I should let him. But not the genuine work, not the meticulously crafted proposal that my team had invested so much effort into. Instead, I would provide something that appeared convincing at first glance but would crumble under scrutiny from experts like the Apex team. I picked up my phone and called Amanda back. Amanda, I need your assistance with something a bit unconventional. A mix of nervousness and determination washed over me. I'm listening, she replied, curiosity clear in her tone. I want to establish a shadow system. A duplicate of my Apex files that contains altered information. I need Henry to believe he is accessing my real work while actually viewing carefully modified decoys. Amanda paused for a moment. You want to create a honeypot, she finally asked, using the IT security term for a trap designed to detect unauthorized access. Exactly. Can you help me set it up so that when Henry logs in with my stolen credentials, he sees the decoy files instead of the real ones? Technically, yes, Amanda replied slowly. We can create a mirrored environment that activates when your credentials are used from an unauthorized device. But Naomi, this is risky. If Edward discovers this, I understand, I confessed, but what other option do we have? Allow Henry to take months of our hard work and risk losing the Apex contract due to his lack of experience? Moreover, we are merely granting him access to altered information, not completely shutting him out. Had he sought permission instead of sneaking around, he would have had the authentic files. Amanda, on the other hand, said, all right, come up to the IT floor. This will require a few hours to set up correctly. Until 3 a.m., Amanda and I toiled away on crafting convincing decoy files. I was careful not to make the mistakes too glaring. Henry had to be convinced these were the genuine documents, and they needed to be subtle enough that he wouldn't question them until it was too late. We adjusted financial forecasts to make them look robust while embedding inconsistencies that experts would catch. We tweaked technical specifications to include methods that sounded impressive but were actually ineffective or outdated. We altered implementation schedules to be unrealistically ambitious, which would immediately raise alarms for anyone experienced in managing large-scale projects. During this entire process, I was hit with waves of anxiety. Was I being vindictive? Was I jeopardizing the company's future just to teach Henry a lesson? But then I recalled how he had accessed my personal performance reviews, how he had attempted to undermine me at every opportunity, and how he was ready to take credit for my team's efforts. No, this wasn't merely about safeguarding my position. This was about fairness and meritocracy, the principles that Edward himself professed to value. If Henry aspired to thrive in this company, he needed to do so with integrity, not by stealing and sabotaging others. As we wrapped up the creation of the shadow system, another thought crossed my mind. What about the legal ramifications? Could this be seen as entrapment or something similar? Amanda shrugged. He is the one accessing your account without authorization. That already violates company policy and could be illegal. If you're feeling anxious, it's wise to consult someone knowledgeable in legal matters. The following morning, just before I left for work, I reached out to my friend Michael, a corporate attorney at a different firm. Let me clarify this, Michael said after I detailed the situation. The CEO's son has taken your login information, has been viewing confidential documents without permission, and now you're creating fake files to catch him red-handed. That's right, I affirmed. Is that permissible? Michael laughed. Although his actions are undoubtedly illegal, they likely breach computer fraud laws, corporate espionage regulations, and certainly company policy. Regarding your strategy, you're not blocking his access or harming the company. You're merely managing the information available through credentials that were wrongfully taken from you. So, I should be fine. Mostly, my recommendation is to document everything meticulously. Keep track of the unauthorized access. Preserve copies of both the genuine and fake files with timestamps, and perhaps jot down your rationale. Additionally, ensure that the actual presentation is ready in case things take a turn for the worse. The company's interests must remain a priority. I expressed my gratitude to Michael and assured him I would keep him informed. Then, I geared up for a day of careful performance. At work, I made it a point to visibly engage with the decoy files, occasionally printing out sections and reviewing them in common areas where Henry might see. I uploaded updated versions to the folders I knew he was accessing, each containing the subtle imperfections we had planned. Meanwhile, I stored the genuine files on an encrypted drive that Amanda had arranged for me. My team continued to develop the actual presentation, although I informed them we were implementing additional security protocols due to the project's significance. Only access the project files through the secure link I sent to your official email, I instructed them. And please refrain from discussing specific details outside of our scheduled meetings. They appeared puzzled but followed my instructions. Most of them had been with the company long enough to honor confidentiality protocols. As the day went on, I experienced a peculiar blend of feelings. Part of me was thrilled at the idea of revealing Henry's deceitful strategies. Yet, another part was filled with dread that my scheme might backfire, making me appear vindictive or unprofessional. What if Edward chose to support his son? No matter the evidence, I could be jeopardizing my entire career with this risky move. But it was too late to backtrack now. Amanda confirmed that Henry had once again accessed the decoy files during lunch when most of the team was away from the office. He downloaded the complete presentation package. She reported that all the altered files are now on his personal laptop. I took a deep breath. The trap was laid. Now, all I needed to do was wait for Henry to take the bait. The following morning, Henry strutted into the office with a confidence that made my stomach churn. He nodded at me with a smug grin as he walked past my desk. Heading straight for his father's office. Through the glass walls, I could see them engaged in a lively discussion, Henry gesturing animatedly while Edward maintained his usual stoic demeanor. 20 minutes later, my phone rang. It was Edward's assistant. Naomi, Mr. Whitmore would like to see you in his office right away. I gathered my tablet, which had access to both the genuine and decoy files, and made my way to the CEO's office. Henry was still there, lounging in one of the visitor chairs with a self-satisfied look on his face. Naomi, come in, Edward said, gesturing for me to take the other chair. Henry has been sharing some insights about the Apex presentation. Oh, I replied, keeping my tone neutral. I would love to hear them. Henry sat up straight. I have been reviewing the project materials, and I think our approach could use some improvement. Given the significance of this client, I believe we should present our best effort. I completely agree, I said with a polite smile. Great, Henry continued. I propose to Dad that I take charge of the presentation. My experience presenting to C-level executives during my time at Stanford Business School gives me confidence that a new viewpoint could enhance the pitch. Edward looked at me with anticipation. What do you think, Naomi? You've been at the helm of this project since the start. This was the pivotal moment. I could object, assert my desire to present, and potentially sidestep the risks associated with my plan, or I could allow Henry to step right into the trap I had laid. I paused just long enough to make it appear as though I was hesitantly weighing the option. Henry certainly offers a distinct perspective, I said cautiously. If you believe that would be the best course for the company, I am ready to back him up. However, I would like to be present to assist with any technical inquiries that may arise. Henry seemed briefly let down that I hadn't fought harder, but he quickly regained his composure. Absolutely, we will make a fantastic team. I will take care of the high-level strategy and vision, while you can provide the technical specifics if necessary. Edward scrutinized my expression, perhaps picking up on my unusual acquiescence. Are you certain, Naomi? This project has been your passion from the very beginning. I nodded. The success of the company is my priority. If Henry is prepared to take this on, I support that choice. Fantastic, Henry exclaimed before his father could reply. I will begin preparations immediately. The presentation is in 2 days. Correct. Yes. Friday at 10 o'clock, Edward confirmed. Apex is sending their entire executive team, including CEO Catherine Wilson. This is a significant opportunity for us, so I expect nothing short of perfection. He turned to me. Naomi, please ensure Henry has everything he requires to get ready. Certainly, I responded. All the files are finalized and set for review. I can guide Henry through them this afternoon if he has the time. No need, Henry interjected quickly. I've already gone over most of the materials. Just send me the final versions along with any notes you think would be useful. I nodded, my heart pounding with a blend of anxiety and excitement. We'll manage. As we exited Edward's office, Henry lowered his voice. No hard feelings, I trust. It's merely business. Sometimes, the most suitable candidate for the role isn't the one who's been around the longest. I offered him a tight smile. No hard feelings. I eagerly anticipated seeing you in action. That evening, I pretended to work late, informing several colleagues that I was wrapping up the Apex materials and would upload them to the server for Henry's review. Then, I carefully saved the latest versions of the decoy files into the compromised folders before gathering my belongings. As I was leaving, I nodded at Amanda, who was overseeing the system from her desk in the IT department. She gave me a discreet thumbs up. I drove home but found it hard to unwind. What if Henry somehow uncovered the ruse? What if he was more astute than I had assumed and detected the discrepancies in the decoy files? What if Edward chose to review the presentation himself before Friday? At 11:30, my phone buzzed with a text from Amanda. Fish took the bait, downloaded all files 20 minutes ago. I exhaled a breath I didn't realize I had been holding. The plan was underway, and there was no turning back now. For better or worse, Henry would be presenting the doctored materials to Apex Corporation in less than 36 hours. Sleep eluded me that night. I tossed and turned, fluctuating between satisfaction at the thought of Henry finally facing repercussions for his actions and anxiety about potentially jeopardizing the company's relationship with a key client. Was I prioritizing my personal vendetta over Fast Track's interests? No, I reminded myself that I had the real presentation prepared. If everything went completely awry, I could step in and rectify the situation. This was about teaching Henry a lesson, not about harming the company. My phone rang at 6 o'clock in the morning. It was Rachel, one of the senior developers on my team. Naomi, I just received a call from Henry inquiring about some technical details in the proposal. He wanted me to clarify why we opted for specific approaches. My heart raced. What did you say to him? That's the odd part, Rachel remarked, sounding perplexed. He was asking about specifications that don't align with what we actually created. It felt as if he was referencing an entirely different document. I attempted to maintain a calm tone. That's unusual. Perhaps there was a mix-up with the files. Did you explain things to him? I tried, but he was adamant that his version was accurate. He claimed you had approved these specifications yesterday, and when I challenged him, he became annoyed and said he would resolve it on his own. I understand, I replied, my mind racing. Thank you for informing me, Rachel. I will address this with Henry. In the meantime, don't stress about it. Just concentrate on your usual tasks today. After ending the call, I perched on the edge of my bed, my heart racing. Henry was already uncovering inconsistencies, yet he was too proud to acknowledge he might be mistaken. Rather than double-checking with me or the team, he was confidently moving forward, fueled by ignorance. Tomorrow is going to be quite intriguing. I arrived at the office at 7:30, a full 2.5 hours before the Apex presentation was set to start. The actual presentation files were safely stored on my encrypted drive, and I had gone over them one last time the previous night to make sure everything was flawless. The administrative staff was preparing the conference room, arranging water pitchers and coffee carafes on the side table, and placing leather portfolios with the Fast Track logo at each seat. I requested an additional printed and bound copy of the actual presentation just in case. Is this for Henry? The admin assistant inquired as she took the USB drive containing the files. No, I answered. This is a backup. Please keep it at your desk until I request it. By 8:45, executives started to arrive at the building. Edward arrived impeccably dressed in a tailored suit, his expression serious as it always was before important meetings. Naomi, he nodded as he passed me in the hallway. Everything ready for today? Yes, sir. I assured him. The conference room is prepared and Henry should be ready to present. Edward gave me a searching look. You seem calm for someone who just had their project taken over at the last minute. I smiled politely. As I said yesterday, the company's success is what matters most. He studied me for a moment longer, then continued toward his office. Let us hope today goes well for all of us. At 9:15, Henry arrived looking slightly harried, but dressed impressively in what appeared to be a brand new suit. He was carrying his laptop and a leather portfolio similar to the ones already placed in the conference room. Morning, Naomi, he said with forced casualness. Ready for the big show? Always, I replied. How about you? Feeling prepared. A flicker of something, perhaps uncertainty, crossed his face before he masked it with bravado. Absolutely. I was up late putting the finishing touches on my presentation. I think Apex is going to be very impressed. I am sure they will find it illuminating, I said. At 9:45, the receptionist called to inform us that the Apex team had arrived. Edward went to greet them personally, while the rest of us took our assigned seats in the conference room. I deliberately chose a spot directly across from where Henry would be standing, wanting a clear view of his face throughout the presentation. The Apex delegation was led by Catherine Wilson, their formidable CEO known for her sharp intellect and attention to detail. With her were their CTO, CFO, and 3 other executives whose titles I did not catch during introductions. They were all clearly seasoned professionals, the kind who could spot inconsistencies and weaknesses in a proposal within seconds. Edward greeted everyone with warmth, introducing his leadership team and sharing a brief history of fast-track solutions. With a proud gesture towards Henry, he announced, "And now I would like to introduce my son, Henry Whitmore, who will be leading the presentation of our proposal for Apex Corporation's Digital Transformation Initiative." Henry stepped forward with confidence, connecting his laptop to the presentation system. "Thank you, Father, and thank you to the Apex team for being here today. We at Fast Track are thrilled about the chance to collaborate with your esteemed organization on this transformative journey." I had to admit, his delivery was impressive. He had clearly rehearsed his opening remarks and spoke with the polished confidence of someone well-trained in public speaking, if only the content matched his delivery. As Henry moved through the slides, I observed the Apex executives closely. Initially, they appeared engaged, nodding along with his high-level overview of their needs and challenges. Catherine Wilson occasionally took notes, her expression remaining neutral. Then, as Henry reached the section on technical implementation, where Amanda and I had made some of our most significant changes, he declared, "Our approach utilizes a proprietary microservices architecture, which will enable seamless integration with your legacy systems while providing the scalability you require for future growth." I noticed Apex's CTO, David Chin, slightly furrow his brow. He leaned over to whisper something to Catherine, who nodded subtly. Henry continued, oblivious to their reaction. "As you can see from this diagram, we propose a phased implementation over 18 months, with the initial deployment of core modules within the first 60 days. At this point, David was openly frowning, scrutinizing the timeline slide with evident skepticism. The CFO, a sharp-looking woman named Sarah Patel, was quickly jotting down notes. Moving on to the financial projections, Henry said, clicking to the next slide. "Our analysis reveals an investment return of 28% in the first year, which is projected to rise to 42% by the 3rd year." Sarah's attention was immediately captured by this. Such figures seemed excessively optimistic, even for the most successful digital transformation initiatives. In our actual proposal, we had cautiously estimated a 15% ROI in the first year, potentially increasing to 25% by the 3rd year with effective adoption. Catherine raised her hand. "Henry, could you clarify how you derived these ROI figures? They appear quite ambitious compared to industry norms." Henry paused for a brief moment. "Our estimates are founded on efficiency improvements from automation, lower operational costs, and enhanced market share due to better customer experiences." "Yes," Catherine pressed further. "But what exact metrics and assumptions are you utilizing? For instance, what is your projected percentage for operational cost reduction in the first year?" Henry rifled through his notes, evidently searching for information he lacked. "Approximately a 22% reduction in operational costs." David, the CTO, could hardly hold back his reaction. 22%. That is almost double what even the most successful implementations achieve. What technological advancements are you factoring in that others are not? The atmosphere in the room became tense as Henry struggled to formulate a clear response. He started to throw around technical terms, many of which were misapplied or out of context. I noticed Edward becoming increasingly uneasy, shifting in his chair and glancing between his son and the growingly doubtful Apex executives. Catherine cut in, interrupting Henry mid-sentence. "Let's shift our focus to the implementation timeline. You mentioned an initial deployment within 60 days, but your own diagram indicates dependencies on systems integration that usually require months to finalize. Can you explain how you intend to achieve this expedited schedule?" Henry was now sweating, his previous confidence fading away. "We have a highly skilled team that has previously handled similar integrations, and we intend to allocate extra resources to guarantee timely delivery. However, as Sarah pointed out, additional resources come with additional costs. Unfortunately, your budget does not account for this. In fact, your cost estimates appear to be significantly lower than what we would anticipate for a project of this magnitude. Edward then stepped in. Perhaps a brief break is in order. Henry, could I have a word with you outside? As they exited, an uncomfortable silence enveloped the room. The Apex executives exchanged significant glances. Catherine turned to me. Naomi, I understand you were initially in charge of this project. Would you like to address some of these inconsistencies? This was the pivotal moment. I could either reveal Henry's actions now or wait for the situation to unfold. I opted for a balanced approach. There seem to be discrepancies in the presentation that do not correspond with our standard practices, I stated cautiously. If you permit, I would like to discuss some of these issues when Edward and Henry come back. Catherine nodded, a knowing expression on her face. I would appreciate that. A few minutes later, Edward returned alone, his face a mix of anger and embarrassment. Ladies and gentlemen, I apologize for the misunderstanding. It seems there may have been some problems with the presentation materials. Naomi, could you clarify some of the points raised by the Apex team? I stood up, feeling the weight of everyone's gaze. Certainly, but first, I think I should explain what transpired here today. I took a deep breath. Fully aware that how I managed the next few moments would not only affect Henry's future but potentially my own career as well. Over the past week, someone has been accessing my account after hours, viewing and downloading confidential files related to this project. I began, my voice steady despite my racing heart. Upon discovering this unauthorized access, I consulted with our IT security team. I gestured towards Amanda, who had come to join us for the presentation. She rose to her feet. That is correct, she affirmed. Our security logs indicate several instances of Naomi's credentials being utilized from unauthorized devices, particularly from conference room B on the executive floor during times when Naomi was absent from the building. Edward's face darkened. And you suspect this was Henry? The system logs validate it, Amanda answered, retrieving her tablet. The unauthorized access aligns perfectly with Henry's entry and exit times, and the specific device fingerprint corresponds to his laptop. Suddenly, Henry stormed back into the room, his face red with fury. This is absurd. Naomi is attempting to undermine me because she envies the fact that you selected me to lead the presentation. Actually, I replied calmly, turning to confront him, I possess evidence that you pilfered my login credentials and accessed my files without authorization. When I uncovered this, instead of reporting you right away, I devised a set of decoy files containing subtle inaccuracies and misleading information. Those are the files you accessed and presented today. The room fell into silence. Even Catherine and her team appeared taken aback by this disclosure. That is outrageous, Henry stammered. Why would I need to steal your login? I am an executive of this company. I have access to everything already. Not to my personal project files, I pointed out, and certainly not to my performance reviews, which you also accessed multiple times. Edward looked horrified. Henry, is this true? Before Henry could answer, Amanda stepped forward once more. Sir, I have the logs right here. They indicate access to Naomi's account from Henry's devices on 12 different occasions over the last 2 weeks. I can also confirm that Naomi and I established the shadow system to monitor this unauthorized access 5 days ago after the intrusion was first detected. Henry's complexion had turned ashen. Dad, this is a setup. They are colluding to make me look bad. By presenting false information to our most crucial potential client? Edward asked, incredulous. How does that help Naomi or Amanda? Catherine cleared her throat. Maybe we should give you some space to resolve this internally. No, I interjected quickly. Please stay. The actual proposal for Apex is ready, and it addresses all the concerns you mentioned regarding the presentation you just viewed. I turned to the administrative assistant who was lingering by the door. Could you please fetch the backup presentation I provided you this morning? As she rushed off, I continued, what Henry showcased was a purposely flawed version of our proposal. The genuine plan contains realistic timelines, accurate financial forecasts, and technically sound implementation strategies. I created the decoy files to confirm my suspicions about the unauthorized access without escalating to formal accusations right away. The assistant returned with the bound presentation packages, which I handed out to the Apex team and Edward. If you will permit me, I said, connecting my laptop to the display system, I would like to guide you through our actual proposal for Apex Corporation's digital transformation. For the next 45 minutes, I presented the true plan, systematically addressing each point of confusion from Henry's presentation. I detailed our authentic technical approach, the realistic implementation timeline, and the conservative yet promising financial projections. As I spoke, I noticed the Apex team relaxing, nodding in agreement with points that now made sense, and asking insightful questions that I was fully prepared to answer. Throughout my presentation, Henry remained silent, his expression shifting between anger and humiliation. Edward observed both of us closely, his initial shock gradually transforming into what seemed like resigned disappointment in his son and a renewed appreciation for my work. When I concluded, Catherine nodded thoughtfully. This is much clearer. Your strategy is both ambitious and realistic, which aligns perfectly with what we seek in a technology partner. Thank you, I responded. My team has put in tremendous effort into this proposal, and we are confident in our capability to fulfill everything I have presented today. Catherine turned to Edward. We still have some inquiries and points to negotiate, but I believe this provides us with a strong foundation to build upon. Perhaps we could arrange a follow-up meeting next week to go over the details. Edward, who had been unusually silent, nodded. Certainly, and I want to personally apologize for the earlier confusion. Please be assured that we take both data security and client relationships very seriously at Fast Track. As the meeting concluded, Edward requested that I stay behind while Henry and the others exited. Catherine paused at the door as she was leaving. Naomi, she said softly, outstanding work today on various fronts. I look forward to collaborating with you directly as this project progresses. The door shut, leaving me alone with Edward Whitmore, the CEO and father of the man I had just publicly called out. Edward sank heavily into one of the conference room chairs, loosening his tie with a tired motion. For a long moment, he simply gazed at the table, gathering his thoughts. When he finally met my gaze, his expression was a complicated blend of anger, respect, and resignation. You took quite a risk today. Naomi, he said, his tone surprisingly calm. You could have just reported the unauthorized access when you found it. I remained standing, hands clasped in front of me. Yes, sir, I could have, but I wanted to be completely sure of what was occurring before making accusations against your son. Edward nodded slowly, questioning the necessity of setting up the decoy files. Was that truly needed? In my opinion, yes, I replied firmly. Henry needed to grasp the repercussions of his actions. Had I merely blocked his access or reported him right away, he might have discovered another way to sabotage the project or my position. In this manner, the situation resolved itself with little long-term harm to the company. Little harm, Edward raised an eyebrow. We almost lost a $50 million client. But we didn't, I pointed out. In fact, Catherine appeared more impressed by our handling of the situation than she might have been by a flawlessly executed presentation. She recognized our dedication to honesty and accountability, along with our technical skills. Edward paused for a moment, reflecting on this. You know, Naomi, in my 25 years in business, I've made numerous mistakes, but perhaps my greatest was letting my personal relationship with Henry cloud my professional judgment. I wanted him to succeed so much that I offered him opportunities he hadn't earned and ignored behaviors I would never accept from anyone else. "He is your son," I said gently. "It's natural to wish the best for him." "Yes, but I haven't done him any favors by shielding him from consequences." Edward sighed. When he was young, his mother always insisted he clean up his own messes and confront his own failures. After she passed away, I think I tried to protect him from every hardship or pain. The outcome is a young man who feels entitled to success without having to earn it. I was uncertain how to react to this unexpected openness from my typically reserved boss. "Thank you, Edward, for not escalating this situation to the board or creating a public spectacle. You safeguarded the company's reputation while still allowing the truth to emerge." "That was always my goal," I reassured him. "I have dedicated 6 years of my life to Fast Track. I wouldn't risk its future over a personal issue." Edward rose to his feet. "Decision made. Effective immediately, I am promoting you to Director of Enterprise Development. You will report directly to me and have complete authority over all major client projects, including Apex." I blinked in astonishment. "Thank you, sir." "And Henry?" "Henry will be starting a new entry-level role, no special advantages, standard performance evaluations. If he aspires to have a future in this company, he will have to earn it just like everyone else, including you." Edward reached out his hand. "Can I rely on you to treat him justly if your professional paths intersect?" I grasped his hand firmly. "Absolutely. I believe that everyone deserves a second chance to demonstrate their worth." In the weeks that followed, numerous changes occurred at Fast Track. My promotion was announced across the company alongside a restructuring that assigned Henry to a junior analyst position in a different department from mine. The Apex contract was officially signed, with me designated as the primary contact. Carlisle and Amanda arranged a small celebration for me after work one evening. To Naomi, Carlisle raised her glass in a toast, acknowledging her lesson that patience and intelligence always triumph over entitlement. I smiled but shook my head. To integrity and hard work, the only true route to success. Later that night, while driving home, I contemplated everything that had transpired. The situation with Henry could have unfolded very differently. I could have responded with immediate anger, escalated the issue to HR, or even resigned in frustration. Any of those reactions might have been warranted, but none would have led to the positive resolution we achieved. Sometimes in life, we encounter individuals who appear to possess every advantage, connections, resources, and confidence that stems from never having faced failure. It can be tempting to view them as adversaries and to harbor bitterness over perceived unfairness. However, I came to understand that everyone ultimately confronts the reality of their own abilities and character. While we cannot dictate the actions of others, we can control our responses to them. The distinction between revenge and justice is delicate, and I navigated it with care. My intention was never to humiliate Henry, but to foster a situation where the truth would inevitably emerge. In doing so, I not only safeguarded my own position but also potentially provided Henry with the wake-up call he required to evolve into a better professional and person. In the business realm, much like in life, our genuine strength is derived not from our positions or networks, but from our integrity, skills, and resilience. At times, we must allow others to stumble so they can learn from their mistakes. There are moments when we need to maintain our stance quietly instead of engaging in open conflict. Additionally, we must be prepared to take calculated risks to safeguard what is important to us. Have you ever encountered a scenario where someone attempted to claim credit for your achievements or undermined your professional standing? How did you respond? I would be eager to hear your experiences in the comments section below. If you found this narrative beneficial, please like and subscribe for more insights into professional experiences and lessons learned through challenges. Share this with anyone who may be navigating office politics or dealing with challenging colleagues. Keep in mind that in both the workplace and life, integrity and strategic thinking will ultimately prevail. Thank you for your attention, and I wish you the bravery to advocate for yourself.